Hi there, and welcome to the Hidden Pixels podcast, a show highlighting those gaming stories you might have missed on your first playthrough. I'm your host, Sebastian Azaro. On this episode, we're looking at the Mass Effect universe, a version of our future where a few scientific discoveries have made interstellar travel possible, and humanity is trying to find their place in the galaxy. Today examines one of those history-changing discoveries. Let's dive in. The team of scientists lined up on the bridge, faces nearly pasted to the viewports, focused on the three gray masses coming into view. One was the cold, familiar planet that school children around the world had learned about for years, Pluto, the ninth planet from the sun. It was impressive that the team was here, taking in a view that so few people had witnessed in person. But the truly special event was still to come. The ship's pilot, Flight Lieutenant LaRoche, was the only one moving, directing their flight pattern past the planet and toward its smaller sibling. The crew didn't even take stock of the nearby second monstrosity, Gagarin Station, commonly known as Jump Zero. This 6-year-old creation was a marvel in itself, a huge international effort serving as the launching pad for humanity's feeble attempts to broaden the boundaries of the solar system. Unfortunately, all of those attempts had failed, with none of the drones chugging along at faster than light speeds, finding anything meaningful, just more empty space. That was why this current mission was one of hope. Hope that the other floating heavenly body out there would make all of those failed missions obsolete. LaRoche smirked as she reminisced on how humanity got to this point, how unlikely development after unexpected discovery led to this moment, her piloting towards humanity's future as a species. She shook slightly as she gave the controls a firmer grip. It had started on Mars years back. After the Americans founded the moon's first permanent colony, the Europeans wanted to make a flamboyant splash. And somehow, they did it. Lowell Station, the first colony on Mars, established in 2103, the greatest achievement in mankind's history, only to be overshadowed by the next discovery to come. Everybody knows the story. A small mining firm on the Martian South Pole sees some anomalies in the data they're examining. They decide to check it out. Just a quick expedition to confirm that it was nothing but a glitch in the system. What they ended up finding changed humanity forever. Technology and data from an ancient civilization more advanced than anything ever imagined. And in the blink of an eye, humanity is not alone in the universe. At some point, there were other species out there. Maybe there still are. And they were a hell of a lot smarter than us. Earth's best and brightest examined the discovery and found ways to better almost every aspect of human life, from energy consumption to travel to militaristic weaponry. The most powerful nations came together to create the Systems Alliance, a governing body to lead Earth into this new and unknown period. And then the System Alliance created this crew, trusted with a secret task forged from that Martian discovery. From what LaRoche knew, hidden within the Martian discoveries was some sort of treasure, something just as crucial as the new Element Zero or faster-than-light travel. It was data, specific data actually, describing portals that would unlock the passage to the rest of the universe. And that data pointed directly to the orbit of Pluto. It didn't exactly state what would happen, but the crew seemed to have their beliefs. And more importantly, they had instructions on how to power it up. The ship rumbled past Pluto, and LaRoche refocused her attention. She slightly changed her course, making for a more direct route around the planet and to that final gray body. Charon, Pluto's largest moon, and almost a planet in its own right. Apparently, this was the key to everything. The crew became contagiously giddy, infecting LaRoche with their excitement over being so close to their goal. She pulled them just to the outer ridges of the moon's gravitational pull and idled the ship. She felt a slight sigh of relief, knowing that her mission was complete. Now it was time for the rest of them to get to work. And work they did. For hours, they aligned the ship's discs and sensors in ways that made LaRoche's head spin. She wasn't sure how they were going to pull it off, but each and every one of the members on board seemed confident as they clashed at their keyboards, checking and double-checking the gauges nearby. Sweat beaded on the brow of a nearby technician, but he didn't even seem to notice. There was a look of ecstatic glee on his face that LaRoche had never seen before. It somehow eased her nerves. After some time, the crew began to make headway. Working like men possessed, they secured each sensor before furiously moving over to the next one. From what the pilot understood, they were connecting with reactors of some sort on the moon. That was impossible, though. Everyone knew that Pluto's moons were desolate. Unless maybe the data pointed to more ruins from the ancient civilization? Maybe they were about to make another Martian-level discovery? Two of the crew members seemed to have finished their tasks and were anxiously watching out the viewport again. Over the next half hour, more and more finished and joined them, either pacing or biting their fingernails in anticipation. Soon there was only one left working, typing furiously and shaking her head as she calculated and recalculated certain measurements. Faster and faster she went, until suddenly she stopped. She smiled to herself and then looked over her shoulder at the crowd at the viewport. Ready? And with that, she hit the enter key, rushing to join the others. They were all intently focused on the moon, and LaRoche looked as well. At first she saw nothing, but after a few seconds, one of the crew members cried out, There! There! Ah! The pilot looked at where the man was pointing and noticed a faint light emitting from the center of the moon. The crew erupted in cheers and hugs, celebrating what must have been some sort of accomplishment. LaRoche joined in, but didn't fully grasp what happened. She looked back at Charon. As time passed, the greenish-blue light grew in intensity, and the crew all settled in to watch the change. Now the light was almost too much to look at directly. The pilot shielded her eyes with one of her hands and noticed that the moon was changing as well. All of a sudden, it wasn't as round anymore, as though it was melting or evaporating in certain places. One end was becoming jagged and pointed, almost like a barrel of a pistol. She gasped when she realized what was happening. The data didn't describe a location on Charon. It was Charon. It wasn't a moon, but the largest piece of technology that LaRoche had ever seen. And they had just turned it on, awakening it from its dormant sleep. The pilot was dazed at the thought of it, falling back into her chair. Staring off into the vastness of space beyond the newly powered Charon, she was oblivious to the still cheering crowds around her. She became vastly aware of how close they were to the unknown darkness and couldn't fathom what else the universe had in store for humanity. Chief Scientist Roberts placed his head in his hands, sighing loud enough for everyone in the room to hear his disappointment. He had just got in for the day at his post, barely sleeping the night before, and hoped that today would finally be the day. But as soon as he logged in, he knew it wasn't going to happen. The screen was blank, with no pings back. It had been 4 weeks since they had sent the latest and probably last round of probes through the Charon relay. 4 weeks of nothing, with the transmitters going silent immediately upon contact. The ancient tech that used to be known as Pluto's largest moon was supposedly an accelerator, flinging objects somewhere in the universe at nearly inconceivable speeds. Robert's team was tasked by the Systems Alliance to determine where it leads, and they had come up short for months. They had first tried a round of probes, small satellites with transponders and sensor signals that could be tracked from a decent distance away. They wouldn't be able to find them across the galaxy, but they hoped that they could piggyback off of the relay's technology and chart some sort of course. But it didn't work. The signals were lost as soon as the probes went through the channel. Roberts tried everything in the following rounds of probes, boosting the signals, trying alternative frequencies or traces, aligning the technology in different and unpredictable ways. Nothing seemed to work. Before sending in this last round, Roberts was told that it would be the last attempt before alternative methods were considered. Everything rode on this one last try. He worked for days on end, attempting to perfect those assumptions from the previous tries. They sent the probes in and waited patiently at their terminals. And they kept waiting. And now 4 weeks later, the day that Roberts needed to report their findings to the System Alliance leadership, he sat at his terminal with his head in his hands, and no idea where the relay led to. After a while, he sighed loudly again and got up from his desk. Literally dragging his feet, he shambled over to the communications room. When he walked in, a hologram appeared on the raised circular platform settled against the back wall. 3 grim faces stared back at him, waiting for the worst. "Well, Roberts, how did it look this morning? Any news?" Admiral Barkada, a stubbled man on the left, examined the chief scientist, trying to decipher the news through his body language. Roberts glumly shook his head. "No, sir, no news. All quiet still, with no expectation that things will change." Admiral Clausen, the thin man on the right, clapped his hands, nearly interrupting Roberts. "And there you have it. Now can we please move on to the real work?" Roberts shuddered, knowing what that entailed and not feeling ready for it at all. He looked to the other 2 glowing faces, but they were resigned to reluctant acceptance. The woman in the middle, Admiral Verda, closed her eyes and sighed. "Okay, Clausen, we do it your way. Roberts, we'll meet you there at Gagarin Station in the next month with the majority of the Discovery team. Until then, you need to make a short list from your people whom you think would be capable of piloting a mission such as this. And don't forget to prepare yourself. The team traveling through the relay will need a scientist of your caliber. Dismissed." Robert stood staring at the empty wall long after the holograms disappeared. Prepare himself? How does one prepare themselves for a trip literally anywhere in the universe? Roberts was slightly shaking as he slowly turned around, suddenly very aware of every second passing him by. John Grissom tossed his last case into the hold of the ship and stopped to embrace the light breeze on the launch pad. The autumn chill was just starting to sink in, but John didn't mind, knowing that this was one of the billion little things he would miss once he took off. He breathed the air deep, letting it fill his lungs, and exhaled slowly before boarding the ship. The majority of his crew was already aboard, quickly preparing for the approaching launch. It wasn't the most spacious spacecraft in the Alliance fleet, but it would more than serve their purpose, to explore whatever was beyond the Charon relay. John briskly moved towards his office off of the bridge, signaling to his task force to join him. Once everyone was present, he began his makeshift introduction. "Well, team, I'm not one for heartfelt speeches. We have a mission, and one with a lot of unknowns. We don't know where we'll end up, we don't know what we'll find there, and we don't know if we'll get back. Frankly, we don't know a whole mess of things. But what we do know is that each and every one of you was chosen for a specific purpose. We know each one of us is the brightest in our fields, and we know that we're going to fight like hell to see this mission through. For the Alliance, for the people of Earth, and for humanity, we are going to see this through." He briefly held each team member's gaze, knowing that they weren't just military officers and cultural historians, but mothers and brothers and grandparents. They were humanity's hope for finding out what lies beyond, and they were wholly ready. John refocused after his moment of sentimentality. "All right, let's get going. Bonnie, I want us up and out in 10. Everyone else, prepare for departure." The team dispersed with an eager anticipation. All except one, that is, a slightly nervous soldier no older than 20, who was hanging back. John looked at him in surprise. "Can I help you, soldier?" The young man instinctively jumped to attention. "Ryder, sir. First Lieutenant Alec Ryder." John nodded. "Aha, Commander Long's replacement. She speaks very highly of you, and your ability to lead the hopefully unnecessary ground teams." "Thank you, sir." Ryder looked appreciative, but also as though there was more on his mind. After a moment of internal debate, he decided to just go for it. "I wanted to let you know, sir, how grateful I am that you allowed me to join the mission in Commander Long's stead. I am fully committed and won't disappoint." John raised an eyebrow in surprise, but understood where the young officer was coming from. "Ryder," This is your first mission leading a ground squad, isn't that right? Ryder sheepishly nodded. Well, there's no need to thank me. Your track record spoke for itself. That and the commander's recommendation were more than enough to convince me that you'd be the right person for the job. Ryder let out a sigh of relief. Thank you, sir. Some officers would have taken offense to such a young team member on an important mission such as this one. I won't let you down. And with that, Ryder turned and left the room, leaving John to contemplate their interaction. He was impressed by the directness of the young officer, who in fact did receive a rave review from Commander Long. However, the less they had to use the ground team, the better in John's mind. While they prepared for any scenario, the ideal mission success would be getting to the other side and back without any major interaction. John hoped they would simply chart the relay's landing destination and return in one piece. A grim darkness came over him as he strapped into his seat and prepared for liftoff. It wasn't until the ship arrived at Jump Zero when the reality of the situation finally hit Chief Scientist Roberts. These might be his last few days in the solar system. Our solar system. He would be one of the handful of people to first visit another star system, maybe even another galaxy. Or he would be crushed by the gravitational forces beyond any of their comprehension, or burnt in a distant sun, or disintegrated into nothingness. His hand shook as he grabbed his ID from his desk, stomach turning at the thought of the unknowns. Entering the communications room, he happily saw that the pilot he had chosen was already present. Flight Lieutenant LaRoche was one of the best pilots that the Alliance had, plus she had the experience of being part of the Charon Discovery team. He nodded to her and took his place at the conference table. Within moments, John Grissom and his task force also entered the room. Grissom was a brooding man, and he had a reputation as a brilliant leader. Some of Robert's fears were alleviated knowing that Grissom would be leading them. The two shook hands and exchanged pleasantries while waiting for the briefing to begin. Fortunately, it wasn't too long before the familiar 3 holograms were activated on the far wall. Admiral Verda, the calm-faced woman in the center, spoke first. Grissom, I'm glad you and your team made it. I see that you've met Chief Scientist Roberts. Good. She paused and cleared her throat before continuing. Now this is it. This is the team. For those of you who haven't been here before, welcome to Gagarin Station, or as you probably know it, Jump Zero. I'm going to be frank. This will be your home for the next 3 days and potentially the last home you will see in this solar system. While it's not the outcome we're hoping for, it is a reality you must all be prepared for. Her eyes flickered at Roberts before continuing. Your primary mission objective is to travel through the Charon relay and report back your location. Secondary objectives include reporting on the system you land in, as well as attempting a safe return journey to our solar system. What we know so far. The relay is a mass transit device allowing for interstellar travel. The relay was activated last year via Element Zero. Unfortunately, any unmanned probe sent through the relay has immediately ceased signals upon transit. Therefore, to be blunt, we do not know where this relay will lead. John leaned forward, determination painted on his face. The Council does not need to worry about the will of this task force to see the mission through. I know this team is made from the best of the best, and we will not let you down. All 3 admirals smiled. Thank you, Grissom, and we'll leave you with this. Your task force was established to get the Alliance over this hurdle and move us to the next phase of interstellar exploration and development. You are the best and the brightest of the Alliance, our hope of unlocking the secrets of the galaxy. Thank you for accepting this mission, and good luck to you all. LaRoche was back at the helm, and this time she was going to get a much closer look at the entity she helped discover the previous year. It was that experience that led to her being nominated for this task force. She knew the risks as well as anyone, but if the discovery of the Charon relay did anything to her, it was instilling a hunger to learn more, to push the boundaries of any known map, to be the first person to pilot a ship in a new system. She shivered at the thought. How are we looking? A deep voice from behind her chair nearly made her jump. John Grissom, stern and unwavering, was staring out the viewport with her. Making our approach to the relay now, sir. We should have the crew prepare for the jump. Grissom didn't reply, instead nodding and turning on the spot. Roberts, how you looking? The nervous chief scientist had a slight quiver in his voice. Good, sir. We're ready for connection with the mass accelerators on the relay. Grissom stared at the thin man, momentarily doubting whether they had made the right choice in bringing him along. But he wiped the thought from his mind. It was too late for second-guessing at this point. He went back to the intercom, now broadcasting to the entire ship. All right, team, this is it. We're preparing to make the jump, so be ready. This is what we were chosen for. This is our time to push humanity forward. This is our moment. Grissom nodded at LaRoche, and the pilot descended toward the relay at full speed. She squinted her eyes as they got closer, knowing that she had to get close enough to make the connection. She heard Robert's voice from somewhere behind her. Mass enter descent. Ready for connection. LaRoche pushed closer. Soon the connection began, with an electric blue current of element zero stretching from the core of the relay to the ship and back. But before the pilot could even share her amazement, bang! There was a crack like a cannon, and the space in front of them was streaked with a tunnel of light unlike anything they had ever seen. They were cruising at speeds that their measurement devices could barely register. While they were safe in the interior of the ship, they knew that the distances they were traveling were farther than any human had ever been. And then, crack! Just as soon as they had been shot off, they stopped. The adrenaline was still pumping LaRoche's temples and chest as she attempted to catch her breath. They were alive. They had done it. A second of silence held in the air before wham! Something had hit the ship, and hard. Wham! 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 LaRoche scanned the dash, and her stomach dropped as she realized what had happened. Over the past year, dozens of probes had been sent through the relay, and now they were all bunched together, right at the spot where their ship had ended up. Grabbing the controls, she let reflexes and years of experience take over. Bobbing and weaving, she avoided the debris and found a gap of open space. Boosting through, she narrowly cleared the field of probes, cruising into the clear. She rechecked her sensors for any more hints of trouble, but they all seemed to still be performing normally. She spun in her chair, surprised to see most of the task force on the bridge behind her. Their mouths were agape, realizing that they were the first humans to survey this new system. They had made it. The only one who didn't seem to be in complete shock was Grissom. LaRoche, Roberts, status! The pilot remembered her position and duty. Sir, all systems normal. Calculating location now. There's a few moments of breathless anticipation from the whole crew as LaRoche worked the navigational computer. We're still in the Milky Way. Arcturus system, sir. 36 light-years away, nearly instantaneous. Timing is still normal. One of the historians from the bridge chimed in. That's relatively nearby to our home system. We've barely left. It was Grissom's turn to smile at the thought. Nearby was relative now. They were farther away from Earth than any human had ever been, but for some reason it seemed like they were right next door. Let Jump Zero know. We've made it through to Arcturus. Roberts jumped on the communication relay, eager to accomplish their primary mission. Gagarin Station, come in. We've made it to the Arcturus system. Gagarin Station, come in. The entire crew waited in eager anticipation. Excruciating seconds passed, and passed, and passed, and passed, and... Gagarin Station, come in! More silence. Sweat speckled Roberts' brow. Come in! The chief scientist checked his sensors and tried again before looking up defeated. Sir, there's no connection. We won't be able to send a message to Jump Zero from here. Grissom grimaced, running a hand through his hair. Damn it! They needed to report back their location. And if they can't send it through the comms, they were going to have to find a way back themselves. Sir? It was LaRoche now speaking up. Sir, we have multiple objects in the area, multiple objects giving strange readings. Grissom came over to read the scanner himself. Probes? Planets? Yes, but, well, there are other things as well. Admiral Verda had been pacing her chambers. The task force had been gone for hours and still no communication. No message that they had made it, no all clear. For all she knew, she had sent them to a quick and torturous death. No, she could not let herself go there. She needed to keep her mind clear and focused. They would hear back from Grissom. He would find a way to report back. As nervous as she felt, it was nothing compared to Admiral Clausen. The thin-faced man had pushed from the get-go to send soldiers through the relay, regardless of the dangers. But now that the reality of his plan was settling in, he was turning a pale greenish color. Verda closed her eyes. Grissom would find a way. He would make contact. A translucent hologram suddenly appeared in front of her. "Admiral, they did it! They made it back!" Relief poured over Verda as Clausen let out a whoop of involuntary joy. "Patch them through immediately." The hologram changed to John Grissom's grizzled face, looking slightly tired but still at attention. "Admirals, Grissom here. I would like to report that we have accomplished the mission and successfully made it through the relay. It leads directly to the Arcturus system." The Alliance leadership showed surprise at this news. "Arcturus? Are you sure? Please, fully brief us on what happened." John gave a curt nod and continued. "Yes, ma'am, we're certain. I apologize for the radio silence. Our comms shorted out immediately upon the jump and could not be repaired while in transit. However, we did make several key discoveries. First is that the probes we sent are all still intact. They have collected data and readings of the system that will help us better understand how it differs from our own. Second, and more importantly, is the confirmation that the Charon relay is not the only one. In fact, the Arcturus system alone has at least 5 relays within its space. The relay was not a portal, but rather one exit in an interstellar network. Unfortunately, we will not know where these relays lead, but it is safe to say that the exploration of these systems should be our #1 priority." The admirals were silent, trying to process this monumental report. Verda finally spoke up. You did it, Grissom. I can't fully believe it. You made it through and back. Wow." She sat down in shock, still reeling. It was Clausen's turn to speak up, feverish in glee that the plan had actually worked. "Congratulations, Grissom. You don't need us to tell you what this means for the Alliance. Hell, for humanity. You did it! We need you on the next ship back to Earth. You're a goddamn hero, and you'll receive the welcome that you deserve." Grissom shifted uncomfortably at the last few statements. "With all due respect, sir, the entire team took part in the mission. Each member served a role. And if anyone deserves recognition, it would be LT Ryder. He not only led the ground team, but he repaired our damaged EZO component on the fly. Without it, we would never have been able to interface with the relay to get back home. In truth, he saved us all." Admiral Clausen wouldn't hear it, though. Yes, Lieutenant Ryder and the rest of the team will receive full accolades for their part. But this was your team, Grissom. You led the first humans to another star system. You're the one telling the story. Think about recruitment, about the importance to the Alliance. John Grissom, explorer of deep space. You're exactly what Earth needs right now." Grissom tried to interrupt. He tried to explain that he was just a bit part, that he was a soldier, not a marketing tool. He wanted to be out there, jumping through those other relays. He wanted to stay with his team and continue to chart the stars. He tried to explain, but he couldn't get a word in to his superior officers. "No buts about it, Grissom. Get on the next shuttle here. That's in order. We'll start the plans for your arrival. John Grissom, the hero of humanity." And with that, the communications cut out. Grissom was alone in the comm room, sick with the thought of being the poster boy for the Systems Alliance. John Grissom, the hero of humanity. Ugh. The games in the Mass Effect series are about learning what defines our humanity after we realize that humans are not alone in the galaxy. Games give the players freedom to make their own decisions through branching storylines, and then forces them to confront the consequences. Players can choose to go through the games as a cold, merciless soldier, or the kind-hearted representative of our species. It is this ability to make meaningful choices that draws me back into these games time and time again. The reason I chose this story was solely because we don't know much about the initial events that got humanity to the established position we see in the games. All we know are the basic facts. The data that was found on Mars, scientists reactivated the Charon relay, John Grissom led his team to Arcturus, But John Grissom is dead long before the Mass Effect games begin, and he is only faintly remembered as the hero of that expedition. I choose to believe that John Grissom had a diverse crew who had just as big a role as he did in making this journey. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people must have had a hand in pushing humanity into the future, and I wanted to show that story today. While one man might get mentioned in the history books, he didn't get there alone. Next time, we're moving away from the gritty, serious tone that we've taken these first 2 weeks and towards something a little more fun. The Banjo-Kazooie universe and their magical shaman himself, Mumbo Jumbo. It should be a good one, so make sure you come on back. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Today's show was written, recorded, and produced by me, Sebastian Azaro. All sources used today can be found in the episode details and at our website, hiddenpixelspodcast.com. If you like what you heard, or even if you didn't, please subscribe, rate, and review. And follow us on Facebook at Hidden Pixels Podcast and on Twitter at Hidden Pixels Pod. And of course, thanks for listening.